What's going on, everyone? Dr. Tom Walters back from Rehab Science. Thanks for coming back to my channel. Today we are going to look at a movement tendency called knee valgus. This is when you land or standing on your leg, maybe you're running, doing exercises, and the knee moves in towards the other leg. This is called knee valgus. And this isn't always a problem, but it can sometimes be associated with various pain conditions and injuries. So if you notice yourself having this, check the exercises out. So as I mentioned, knee valgus happens a lot in sports and activities, and we used to think it was much more associated with injuries, and so that research is sort of changing over time, but in some cases it can still be associated with pain and maybe certain injuries like ACL tears, meniscus tears, and things like that, and athletes who have to land forcefully or are running and cutting. So, and then other pain conditions that we see this with are things like IT band syndrome, pain on the side of the knee, the lateral side of the knee. We also see it sometimes with patellofemoral pain, which is pain behind the kneecap. So when people, maybe a runner who on each step, if we did a video motion analysis of them running, we'd see that when they hit the ground, they have this little bit of knee valgus that happens each time they hit the ground. And if that's done for high volume, rep after rep, it could contribute, like I say, to disorders like patellofemoral pain, IT band syndrome, and even lateral hip pain. So if you have one of those conditions, and maybe you're a runner, or you're an athlete, again, that is involved in sports that are landing forcefully or running and cutting, things like soccer, basketball, volleyball, the exercises in today's post would be good for both pain or just if you're looking for things to help reduce the risk of injury. It would help with both of those things. So we'll look at 3 exercises to help improve control of the leg. Essentially, we're going to look a lot at the hip because the knee is really sort of at the mercy of your hip joint. Your hip joint has a wide range of motion, and your knee is sort of, it's not a hinge joint, but it kind of functions that way. It just kind of goes through flexion extension. So in order to protect our knee, we really want to have good control of our hip joint. So that's primarily what the exercises will focus on. All right, so let's jump into them. For this first exercise, we are going to specifically target gluteus medius and gluteus minimus. These are 2 muscles right here on the outside of the hip. And again, they are really important in terms of controlling the knee joint and the hip joint. So what you're going to do is lay on your side. The leg that you're wanting to target will be the leg on top. Okay, so you're going to lay on your side, you're going to roll forward slightly, and then the leg on top, you are going to lift it up and back to the corner, and at the same time we're going to have our leg turned in so that the toes are pointed down slightly. This is internal rotation of the hip. So we're going to have internal rotation of the hip, and then we're going to abduct the hip, which is lifting it up, and then back slightly, which is extension. So those 3 movements together are going to help us activate and strengthen gluteus medius and gluteus minimus. And again, even though this isn't a very functional position, strengthening these muscles will help improve control of our hip joint and femur, which is part of our knee joint. So it will help down the kinetic chain. So with this, shoot for 3 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions, and you should feel fatigue up here in this back sort of pocket area of your glutes. This second exercise is called a fire hydrant, and what we're going to do to make it more challenging is we're going to be in standing, so that's going to be more functional right away because most of the time people have this type of issue when they're standing and will have pain associated with knee valgus in standing. So, and then we're going to add a band around the knees. This will help strengthen and activate our glute muscles again, which are important for controlling the alignment of our legs. So for this standing fire hydrant, we started looking at the right hip on the last exercise, so we're going to continue with that. So if we were working our right side, and you can do this both ways because it has benefits for both legs, but what we're going to do in this case is stand on our left leg, hands on your hips, and then what you're going to do, the leg you're working, so my right leg, I'm going to bend my knee slightly. My leg is going to go out to the side and back and turn up. So in this case, I have abduction, extension, and external rotation. Sort of imagine a dog peeing on a fire hydrant. Okay, so like the last exercise, I'm going to do 3 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions, and I should feel this back here in my butt and my glutes. Okay, so your leg's not going straight out to the side, it's going out, back, and rotating up. Okay, just as far as the hip will move. Don't torque your spine and rotate, just move the hip. And as you can see, the leg I'm standing on is working quite a bit as well. So even though the movement itself is mainly, it's mainly working the leg that's moving, it's also good, if your right leg is the leg with pain, to do this again standing on the painful leg, because it has to really work to balance here, which taps into the glutes and improves control. So I always like to do this on both sides. So again, 3 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions, and this is the standing fire hydrant. This last exercise is called a lateral step down, and this one's probably the best of all 3 of them. We've gradually been building up in challenge and in terms of functionality. So this one's really going to be the most functional in terms of teaching yourself how to control your leg and limiting knee valgus. I've got a step here, like an exercise step. You could do this also with just like a stair at your house or some other step of about this height. I'm going to stand on the step with my right leg. This is the leg I want to work. My left leg is going to hang off the edge. Hands on my hips, and what I'm going to do, and again, this is also really good to do looking into a mirror when you start out, because you want to be able to get some visual feedback and make sure you're not letting that leg fall into knee valgus. And then over time, as you get better, you'd stop using the mirror. But if this is new, start with a mirror. So I'm going to roll my shorts up so you can see. I'm going to stand at the edge, hands on my hips, and I am going to squat down with control until my left heel touches. I want to use the heel so that I'm not using my toes to help myself back up. I'm going to touch my heel and come back up. And the whole goal of this is not only to build strength, but also really movement control. I don't want this to happen. So try to think about keeping your kneecap over, sort of right over your big toe and your second toe. Nice controlled movement. It's okay if the knee goes past the toes a little bit. That's pretty normal. And then you're just going to go down slowly and then back up slowly, really working on not letting knee valgus happen. So just work on building that control. If you can't get it right away, don't stress. This takes a little bit of practice to get that motor control down. And like our other exercises, we're going to go for 3 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions. Okay, so that's the last exercise. We're going to start with side lying abduction, go to the standing fire hydrant, and then our last most functional one, the lateral step down. All of those, excuse me, I'm out of breath, will help work our hip muscles primarily, which will help us control the femur, which is that big long bone, which is the top half of our knee. And so that's really where knee control is going to start, is up at our hip. So implement those 3 exercises, and as always, let me know if you guys have any questions. All right, see you next time. Bye.